So Laura, can you tell us a bit about Theo's condition, please?
Theo has Angelman syndrome, which is 1 in 15 to 20,000 incidents, and he has one of the rarer forms of Angelman syndrome, which is only about 10% of cases. So he has an elder sister who is 7, who also has Angelman syndrome. So Angelman syndrome, 70% of cases is spontaneous in the one child, and in this particular form, I am a carrier of a UBE3A gene mutation, which was discovered when I was halfway through my pregnancy with Theo. That was the most probable diagnosis with his elder sister. But we got, after several months of genetic testing, we got the confirmed diagnosis 2 weeks before Theo was actually born. So the timing was all pretty terrible. So all the initial tests for Angelman syndrome that can be done here at the Children's came back normal, and that's when we met with Sue White, one of the clinical geneticists, and we discussed having his blood, Sophie's blood couried to Brisbane to the Mater pathology lab there to test for do the DNA sequencing test. So that's what we did, but that took about 4 months for the results to come back. And with these types of mutations, it seems to be that all the mutations are slightly different. So again, they have to sequence the whole of that particular gene to actually find the mutation in that case. And it was one that hadn't been listed before.
Wow.
So
And what does the syndrome involve?
the syndrome involves profound developmental delays, epilepsy in 80% of cases, sleep disturbances, severe intellectual impairment, strabismus of the eyes, and ataxia. Some children are still not walking in their teenage years. So early diagnosis is very important in this syndrome in terms of getting all those early intervention therapies in place to really achieve the children's optimal development. Normal lifespan. They never have any speech, which is one of the other characteristics I forgot to mention before, which is in a way one of the main limiting factors, I guess, in terms of integrating into society, having no speech and finding another way to communicate. So that never changes. That they sometimes have a few sounds which sound like words. So, for example, my daughter can say mama, papa, dada, ya. But it never really becomes, occasionally some of the kids can maybe have up to 10 words, but it never really becomes more than that. So the prognosis for speech is to find an alternative method. The epilepsy, they can grow out of it as adults. But obviously with the severe intellectual impairment, really that stays the same, and I think they reach a sort of ceiling of 5 to 7 years of age of factual and IQ.
So you've got a lifetime of care ahead of you.
A lifetime of care, and yes, they never become fully independent. They will always need 24-hour care. Well, I guess it's sort of twofold. I'd like to see earlier diagnosis, so I'd like to see DNA sequencing done much more early on. For example, in my particular situation, had we been diagnosed earlier with my daughter and then been told that we had a 50-50 chance of having every child having Angelman syndrome, we would have not proceeded with having a second child, or we would have looked at the methods that became available in 2011 to pre-select eggs that don't carry the mutation. So that has a big impact. So that's something I would like to see money put into. And it sounds, from what I've read in terms of the research that's being carried out at the moment, they really do think it's highly likely that they can find a therapeutic for this syndrome. So there just needs to be more money available to expedite the research that's going on at the moment, and I'm sure there's many more studies that could be ongoing.